It's August 26th, 11:44, and we're leaving for Nordegg.
Looks familiar.
Does it? No, we don't have to be down at the museum until about 1:30, so. Coming up to Highway 11, looks like there's some lots for sale. At least that's what that sign says.
Good to go.
Good to go?
Yep.
Sing light on?
I don't know, you're driving.
Well, you're my co-pilot, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Did you signal light on? No, not anymore.
Okay, I'll turn it on again. Nordegg Days, August 31st to September the...
Saturday strips.
Yeah, it's going to be busy next weekend. It's a good thing we're not here next weekend.
Welcome to this Nordegg.
We did register in advance to make sure that we could attend the Brazeau Collieries Historic Mine Site Tour, and we had to check in here at the Nordegg Discovery Center. The Nordegg Discovery Center also contains the Nordegg Library and showcases and celebrates history, culture, and the environment by serving as an information center for the area. Yeah, it works for me. RV parking. Well, we're here. We're waiting for our guide to tour us through the mine site. There's a park north of the center. While waiting for the tour guide, we just kind of walked around the area. Here's a beautiful flower display. If you look close, somebody carrying that wagon load of coal. I think we should look closer. Is that me or? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's Sandra. She's taking off with that wheelbarrow full of coal. So we're following the Sasquatch vehicle up to the mine site. All of the crowd. Supposed to be 8 people on this tour. Maybe they got a couple more. I don't know. See how this is different from the way it was before. Looks like I have to open the gate first. Brazeau Collieries Nordegg. 1910, 1955, is that what that says? Four cars, seems like more than 8 people. That's just...
No, it's on the right.
Well, we're at the mine site.
It's ready to go. We'll head over to this red shack over here. Welcome everyone to Nordegg and to Brazeau Collieries. My name is Mel. I'll be your tour guide for today. A couple safety things before we get started. We are going into an abandoned industrial site, so watch your head, watch your feet, be mindful of slips, trips, falls, try not to touch anything. So Brazeau Collieries here ran from 1911 until 1955. It was started by a gentleman called Martin Nordegg. He came here from Germany in search of wealth. In 1955, the mine was shut down permanently and the town was later abandoned. In the 80s, a gentleman called Dennis Morley came here and he started the tours as we have them today. First locker room. At peak in 1923, there was 800 men employed here. However, on average, there was anywhere from 450 to 50 men employed here. So you can imagine that this was quite a busy space. The younger men felt uncomfortable with this, but the older men needed help getting the coal off their back, so they didn't have much of a choice. There's also stories of the young ladies of town peering through those windows up there.
Uh-oh.
There is a story of one young lady who met her husband that way.
Watch where we're walking.
So this room here is the second locker room. This one was known as the political room. Behind that wall there was the manager shower. So the men in this locker room were able to complain about whatever they wanted, and it could be heard by the manager. In the corner there's a whole bunch of actual mine carts that were used. What's interesting is the narrow ones were used here, but the wider ones were used at different mines, particularly in Canon. So behind me here we have the boiler house. Something interesting about this building here is the original smokestacks were actually 80 feet tall, so they could be seen from quite a ways. This boiler house had a couple of functions. It heated up the water for the wash house. They did have hot showers. It also had a steam whistle. This signified the start of shift changes. It also went off multiple times in case of an emergency. However, its main function was to create steam for the powerhouse. The powerhouse was the main source of power up until 1937. At that point in time, they got a contract with Retired Utilities. However, this was kept in working order and provided the backup power for Nordegg, Rocky Mountain House, and even Red Deer. Is everyone ready to keep going?
Sure.
We'll make our way up this hill here. The locomotive shop. This is where they did any repairs that they needed to on the locomotives, as well as recharge the batteries. They had 2 trolley locomotives here, which operated via overhead lines, as well as 6 battery-powered locomotives. They did have a distillery here to create distilled water for these battery-powered locomotives, as well as for the batteries that they used within the mine. They actually needed a special permit to have this distillery during the Alberta Prohibition. What's also interesting is this wall at the front here. It was rebuilt by a historic bricklayer and a historic architect just to kind of show how big this building once was. Does anyone want to take a guess as to how much it costs to rebuild one historic wall?
Oh, for $1 million.
Quite a million, but
100,000 anyway.
pardon?
100,000 anyway.
Little less than that, 70 grand.
That's a whole wall. One wall.
One wall, just the wall.
The whole one wall, yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, and the bricks were already here too, so it was literally just to put the bricks as a wall.
cost me $1 million.
Yeah, right.
For the whole building? Yeah.
Milwaukee wrestling.
We're just following the crowd. Following the crowd.
Is all the original concrete in these buildings, or is it just one?
As far as I know, it's original.
Pretty good shape on it, isn't it?
This building here is the lamp cabin. The miners would come here at the start of their shift. Every miner had a lamp check tag that looked like this. I'll pass this around so you guys can have a closer look. They would come here at the start of their shift, give it to the lamp man, and in exchange, they would get a lamp to use for the day. You guys are more than welcome to poke around and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Oh, down to the mine entrances down. Kind of remember them in my pictures from before.
So this mine here is mine entrance number 2. This one went back around 5 kilometers and was on average 7'9" tall, so a pretty cramped environment to work in. The way that the coal seam runs is at an angle. In the earlier years, they dug up the pitch so the horses could carry empty mine carts up and the full ones down. In the later years, when they had battery-powered locomotives, they also dug down the pitch because they didn't have to worry as much about putting strain on the locomotive. What's interesting is this mine cart up here. Miners would work in pairs of 2 to fill up a mine cart. Each mine cart weighed 1 ton. And they did an average of 24 carts per pair every day. They would alternate who got paid for the carts by sticking a tag through the hole at the front there. And they worked in pairs as kind of a trust system. You do well for your partner's cart, so he does well for yours. Would anyone like any group pictures at this mine here?
Sure.
Yeah?
Are you ready to keep going?
Following the crowd.
Yeah.
This mine tour can be pretty extensive, taking over 2 hours. At this point, we realize this could be an exhausting tour.
This building here is a fan house for mine number 2. We are going through another one later, so I'll explain more about how this works then. This here is the farrier shop. The original one did unfortunately burn down after the mine closed. However, this is roughly how big it would have been and what it would have looked like. Brazeau Collieries here employed on average 60 horses. These horses would be the ones that pull the mine carts out of the mine. Each horse carried a standard load of 9 carts, so 9 ton per horse. The horses here were treated very well. Martin Nordegg saw them as an investment, whereas he saw the men as replaceable. They had helmets before the men did, and they even had 2 weeks off in the summer. The men swore that the horses could count because if they had attempted to hitch on a 10th cart to the usual 9, the horses would refuse to move, and some of them knew exactly where to kick to unhitch the carts. The men also trusted their horses a lot. For example, if a man were to turn left but his horse went right, he would follow his horse to the right. So this mine here is mine number 3. This one went back around 4 kilometers and was anywhere from 15 to 25 feet tall, so a much more spacious environment to work in. Between the 2 mines, 1,600 kilometers of tunnel was dug.
Wow.
That's from here to about Winnipeg.
Wow.
This here is where the explosion of October 31st, 1941 happened. This was during the Second World War, so there was a really big rush for coal and safety was often ignored. The men had come out of the mine complaining of a gas buildup. However, their superiors sent them back to work and threatened them with their jobs. They of course did, and they later set off some dynamite and a major explosion followed by a collapse occurred. 29 miners lost their lives that day. 26 of them are still buried behind the Discovery Center here, and 3 of them went to be buried with family. After this happened, a lot of safety changes did happen here in Nordegg, and it became one of the safest mines in all of Alberta. The managers responsible were not legally reprimanded. However, the people of town did chase them out of town. You guys are more than welcome to go in if you'd like to have a little bit of a look.
Okay, gonna go inside. Go check this out. Well, it's got it blocked off. Can't go any further than this. We could saw our way in, hammer our way in. After all, there's some riches in there. Besides coal, might be some gold. I'm wondering.
Here we have a collapsed part of the mine. You can feel the cold air coming out of it. That's because underground it's a consistent temperature of around 4 degrees Celsius. This consistent temperature is how they operated the fan house. So there were 4 fan houses in total, 1 on each side of each mine. And using the basic principle that warm air rises, cold air sinks, they were able to ventilate out the entire mine with the airflow just all going in one direction. So behind me here, we do have the fan. Nordegg was overall a very safe mine, averaging around 1 casualty per year, which was really good, especially for the time. However, there was 1 casualty that happened here. The fan was turning, and the gentleman who works here had attempted to slow it down using his arm. We can all guess what happens next. He unfortunately lost his arm and his life at work that day. What is really interesting about this fan here is it uses a special type of bearing. It's called a Babbitt bearing, which is a softer type of metal, which means it hasn't seized yet, which also means I can still turn it to this day.
Wow.
Wow.
Don't lose an arm.
Yeah. Try not to.
Over the little creek.
Here we have the dynamite shed. Prior to 1941, the miners would come here at the start of their shift, pick up a couple sticks of dynamite, and just carry it with them throughout their shifts. After 1941, however, they realized that this might not be the greatest of ideas. They no longer use dynamite for the coal. They only used air picks for coal. And the dynamite that they used on the rock, only the specially trained fire bosses were allowed to set it off. This shed here was completely abandoned, and it was actually not spoken of at all. So when they started the tours here, it was a little bit of a mystery to figure out what it once was.
In 2013, the fire almost destroyed this historic site. This tour was supposed to last about 2.5 hours. So we are about halfway through right now. However, to shorten this video, we're going to stop here and call this part 1. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hit the like button so that you'll get notified when part 2 is available. You'll probably notice that all this walking, I was getting out of breath and was concerned that Sandra would be able to keep going. She did okay. We're going to show you a few scenes from part 2, which you don't want to miss, as we will be going through the coal processing plant where they made the briquettes.
So this area behind me here during the operation of the mine would have been the timber yard. They used the timbers for structural support within the mine. Now, however, it's kind of just become our boneyard. Behind you here, we have some mine carts.
That's a big motor.
So this here is the testing facility. They would test the coal for its dirt and ash content, as well as just its overall quality. This would signify to the miners within the mine if they were digging in a good location or if they should move on to a different location. If we look out the window here, we'll see the remnants of a wooden structure through the trees there. That is all that remains of the original briquette plant that burnt down in 1950.